We're going to go to break because this is a short segment, long segment coming up with Stewart Rhodes for the rest of the hour, the head of Oath Keepers. They've just broken the news at oathkeepers.org. Oath Keepers is going operational by forming special civilization preservation teams. Great way to get people involved and waking up. Oath Keepers has been exploding. I hear about it everywhere. A lot of mainline libertarians and conservatives are now joining it and supporting it. The idea of keeping your oath against tyrants. I want to get into this the next segment with Stewart Rhodes, constitutional lawyer, top of his class there at law school, was at Yale, and of course, good friend of mine. And he's also successfully fought cases for us when our reporters have been arrested, winning those cases in civil court. And he's just a great all-around guy, retired out of the Army as a paratrooper after an accident, went to college. He's a constitutional lawyer, worked for Ron Paul. He joins us. We only got 4 or 5 minutes till we go to break here, Stewart. I want to get your take on Obamacare and how it's wrecking the economy. I mean, we told everybody, but this is the road to serfdom. Give us your take on it, then we'll get into all the big breaking news after the break.
Well, sure. It's part of the subversion of the Founders Republic to remove options from the people and centralize power and to control more and more of their lives. And we know where this goes historically. You do wind up with death panels in the end. That's the purpose of it. So, but it's also a distraction. I think it's important for people to start realizing that it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The dollar is doomed, and this is just in many ways another distraction to get you fighting over this while they do something else with the other hand. And something else is to prepare for the destruction of the republic. That's why DHS is spending billions of dollars on ammunition, but no food for relief when the economy collapses. And you should know the reason why, of course, is because they intend for you to be as weak and as dependent as possible.
That's right. And now we're learning the 7,000 plus giant armored vehicles they got this year alone are being deployed to local departments to battle the American people.
Right. They're prepositioning supplies. This is exactly what you would do if you're a military commander and had the luxury of doing so. You would preposition and cache supplies in your areas of operation across the country. You wouldn't have them in central locations. You'd have them dispersed. And that's what they're doing, along with federalizing and force multiplying through the local SWAT teams. And that's exactly why within Oath Keepers, we feel it's time for us to do the same on the side of liberty, is to go into our communities and preposition supplies and force multiply by getting our local communities squared away, and in particular, get the veterans to wake up and realize their responsibilities. And so we're going to lead by example.
Well, you certainly are, and there's no doubt we're moving towards the jump point. But we're not going to be hit flat-footed. We've been warning people, so our credibility is rocketing. How is the establishment going to deal with that?
Well, what they can do is try to maximize the unpreparedness of the American people, so that even if we can say, "Well, see, we told you so," they're still overwhelmed during a crisis. That's why it's incredibly important for us to make sure we're focused on actual physical achievement in our local communities and being able to fill the vacuum. The more prepared we are, the less the cell is going to work, the less the manipulation.
That's right. We're not going to have to physically fight. We're going to have to fight to help people and be leaders.
Preferably.
Preferably. Stay right there, Stewart. No, I mean, listen, helping your community, being involved, being a leader is 90% of it. If it goes physical, it means we failed. We'll be right back. And we're not going to turn our guns in, folks. Everybody knows that.
The Alex Jones channel is the official page of the Info War. But don't miss what's happening on our other channels. The Info Warrior, with the week's best videos. Prison Planet Live, where Paul Joseph Watson gives his expert analysis. And keep up with the rest of the InfoWars crew on our other pages. All of our videos are available to repost for educational purposes. See the sidebar of the Alex Jones channel for the subscription links. And remember, you can always find our videos in the highest quality by becoming a member of prisonplanet.tv.
It is the shutdown of the economy. It is the nationalization of the economy by special interests that stand to gain from it. It's what they've done in third world countries over and over again. It's the globalists taking over our nation now saying, oh, our dollar's down, our stock market's down. The communist Chinese that own our debt, they're angry. They say we better do what Obama says. This is how you capture America, is you economically take it over, and then you declare George Washington to be the enemy. And Stewart, about a month ago, or 3 weeks ago, it came out in Judicial Watch. We wrote a story about it that went all over the internet. And they said in the Army manual, the Founding Fathers would not be welcome in today's military, and anybody that doesn't like total government is basically an enemy. And I see this waking the military up. You have 91% in a Reuters poll against the Syria war. You have people talking about false flag terror all over the news. I have people all over the place apologizing to me, like Geraldo Rivera, saying you're right about the NSA and all this other stuff. I'm seeing a giant awakening. I see that as very, very positive. And I understand you're right. They're gearing up for a big collapse. But I don't see them being able to pull it off if people are aware that they did it. And now they want to hold us hostage and say, you know, give us Obamacare, which they admit is a tax to foreign banks and insurance companies, or we'll gut the economy further. At a certain point, holding us hostage is not going to work anymore. Stewart Rhodes of Oath Keepers.
Well, certainly there's an awareness in the military. Recently, I was at an event, and I had a special warfare guy walk up to me, current serving, and tell me that at least half of his unit is awake and aware, not just of the constitutional issues, but also the economic issues, the Federal Reserve, the destruction of the dollar, you know, the big picture. And I asked him, what about the rank and file in the infantry? And he said, well, he figured at least around 30%. But I've heard from other special warfare guys, it's even higher, that about 75 or 80% of the guys in Special Forces, Marine Force Recon, Navy SEALs, et cetera, are awake and aware and paying attention. The problem, though, is even if that's true, they can still take advantage of a strategic weakness we have. The American people have no food reserves. We have no strategic grain reserves any longer. So if they crash the economy, there will be mass starvation and mass, dependency upon the government. And this manipulation of that emergency, like a nationwide Katrina, is what I worry about the most. And as we said in the article we posted today, you know, over a year ago, we war gamed this and figured this is the best thing they can do. And they certainly are losing time. We are waking up. But what the one trump card they have left is to intentionally collapse the economy and cause that kind of fear and anger that comes in an economic
And by the way, that's what Soviets and communists, these are bankers using that model. They financed it in China and Russia, so it's the same group. This is what they use to bring down Romania, Ukraine, Poland. Right. It's what the, Mao used to wipe out 80+ million people over a decade. They've got a game plan, and it looks like they're planning to use it here.
Right. Consider it an economic neutron bomb. It would kill people as much as an EMP strike would do the same thing. We used to have 3 years of grain reserved for our people during the Cold War because we knew that in the wake of a nuclear exchange, it could take 3 years to grow crops again. When economic collapse can be as catastrophic by interrupting the delivery of food systems, and now in an urbanized society that does not have its own capacity to grow food, you would have the same result as if you had an EMP or a nuclear strike. You would have millions of Americans starving to death. They could just sit back and wait 2 or 3 months and then ride in like the cavalry, bringing in, UN peacekeepers, by the way, which is where the UN treaty would really be operational. And then they would say, well, the reason why we couldn't get food here fast enough is because of those extremists over there who were ambushing the checkpoints and disrupting the delivery, trying to take advantage of the collapse, and they would blame it on the Patriot movement. So it'd be a double whammy. And to that, you can add Brandon Smith, one of our writers, had a recent insight, is that, look, they could just take the war with Syria and use that as their excuse. They could have the U.S. invade Syria and in reprisal have China and Russia dump the dollar and demand only the use of the yuan or the Russian currency instead of the dollar and cause a worldwide run on the dollar and dumping the dollar and destroy the dollar. And then the bad guys would blame the Chinese rather than the bankers who are really at fault. They can say, oh, look, this is warfare. And if you disagree with our reaction to this and the emergency measures that are necessary, then you're aiding the enemy. And so it could be a compound situation of during a war, letting the collapse be blamed on the enemy, and then taking advantage domestically of the hysteria and the anxiety of the American people to go and round up dissidents. This is what we're concerned about. And so the way to counter that is to make sure that we provide for our own local security and we provide for our own strategic food reserve in our community. You cannot store food only for you. You must store it for your neighbors as well. It has to be done.
And they make fun of us when we say have firearms, have food, have water filters, know how to use them. The establishment is on record, underground bases, giant hordes of food, hordes of weapons, and then Homeland Security orders $2 million worth of paper targets. Ladies and gentlemen, that's enough to train an army on, of women in nightgowns, old ladies in shower curtain robes, little kids, 5-year-olds, and it says no hesitation. And then all their manuals say air training for war, and their enemy is George Washington. I mean, this is absurdist. Imagine if they made a movie 50 years ago where the government is teaching people the founders are bad and that gun owners are the enemy and that people that aren't collectivists are bad. I guess they made it in the 1980s. It's called Red Dawn. I mean, this is really what's happening here, and these people really mean business.
Well, it's like Patrick Henry said in his time when he looked at the amassing of troops and naval forces off the coast of the colonies. He said, you know, what are these preparations for? Is there any enemy in this quarter of the world to face Great Britain that would justify this accumulation of men and materials? He said, no, they're meant for us. They can be meant for no other. There's you know, the arming of DHS and distributing armored vehicles throughout our communities, these fortified fusion centers, they're not meant for Al-Qaeda. That's not their concern. It's obviously us. But the question we have to answer is, what are we going to do about it? And what we decided to do within Oath Keepers is have and direct all of our members, 30,000 members across the country, to go operational in a sense of forming teams of people within their own communities based on the Special Forces A-team model of having specialists in each field on a team who are there to then go and be a training cadre to force multiply, to establish neighborhood watches in every community, to wake up all the veterans organizations and encourage them to do the same, to form teams that are self-sufficient within their chapters who can operate in a local community to provide the stability.
And they'll try to demonize it like it's a militia, even though that's part of the Constitution, and every able-bodied male by law is part of the posse. That's the common law. But expanding on this, it's great to call them civilization preservation teams, because that hijacks the popular mean of preparedness, which they actually hijack from us because we're getting people ready, and then makes it more politically correct so that everybody can get ready and be all-inclusive, and it'll make it harder to infiltrate and radicalize, because they try to infiltrate us to radicalize us to then set us up.
Exactly. And the point is not to establish some small elite group that's exclusive. The point is to get everybody to replicate this. We would like to see squared away self-sufficient teams in every neighborhood. You should have a communications expert, a medical expert.
Well, that's been the InfoWars model in InfoWar with the truth, is to get everybody a citizen activist out there to establish A-teams in every area to then force multiply, and we've done that as well.
Exactly. Do it in your own neighborhood. I mean, you can use what we are doing as a template or a model, but then adapt it to your local area. And the main thing is that everybody in their own communities are squared away. Community is the most important thing, and having people, you know, prepare in advance and get together in advance for mutual aid and mutual defense is critical. And one other point is, if you're looking at the prospect of a crackdown on dissidents, what you don't want to do is be isolated, afraid to associate with each other, and waiting for the knock at the door in the middle of the night. As Solzhenitsyn said, that's the wrong way to go. What you want to do is organize like the founding fathers did. They organized as communities. Yes, they had a secret organization, the Sons of Liberty, but otherwise they organized very publicly in public militias and town hall meetings, and they did that as a group. And so they could not, when it came to trying to arrest John Adams, or Sam Adams and Hancock, they couldn't just worry about only them. They had to worry about the entire community rising up. And the advantage to that is that when you force them to bring in the Army and the Marine Corps, because they can't get away with it with their well-vetted snatch teams, because you're just too many of you organized, that forces them to take the gloves off all the way and try to use a standing military, which they don't control fully. We already know that at least half.
I was about to say, if we force them into that, then we're probably going to win. But I tell you, this is a very dangerous period. But look, we've totally got the jump on them. We laid out their entire battle plan decades ago. Patriots like Red Beckman and countless others. And then I've been doing it 18 years. You've been doing it for like a decade. I don't know what they're going to do, because everything we've said is now happening. And that's what I've been hearing. A couple of years ago, it was 30% of the military. Now it's 50%. And I run into the military on the street, and they come over. They know what's going on. And I don't see how the globalists think they're going to pull this off.
Well, they must cause as much chaos as possible. That's what an economic collapse could do. as much desperation as possible. Look at Katrina. You had people who otherwise might not have followed those orders going along with it because they perceived it as a catastrophic emergency, which it was. And so they went along with things in those emergency circumstances. It's just human nature. The less prepared you are and the more desperate you are, the more likely your neighbors will clamor and beg for martial law, and they will turn you in. They'll turn their guns in for food. They'll turn you in for food. So we have to correct that. Every guerrilla fighter in world history is known from Mao on down that the resistance has to provide the stability and security for the people. If they don't, the government will manipulate them. So you must remove the dependency. And the problem is our own government, as I said, is not preparing to feed us. It's only preparing to shoot us. And so we're going to have to fill the vacuum and provide that stability. So I encourage all of you to think about it in terms of a strategic necessity that you store food for your neighbors, even just beans and rice. Anything that you can do that's cheap is better than nothing, so that they're not begging for martial law.
We've also got to prepare if they stage a false flag or whatever and say, arrest me, kill my, take out Stewart, because if they really go for it, you'll see a bunch of people, Ron Paul have a stroke, you know, you'll hear about all these deaths going on. If that happens, everybody's got to get their print machines with their simple messages about the occupation out so that people understand, so suddenly they see everywhere what this really is. You've got to be the key info core out there, the French resistance, basically, to put the V's up everywhere so people understand what's really happening.
Yeah, definitely agreed on that. But I think the physical preparation in advance is more important than anything else at this point. We already have, like you said, a critical mass is starting to wake up, but there's still that physical weakness of not having food storage, not having fuel storage, not being organized for mutual aid and defense in our communities. We're all atomized and fragmented. How otherwise, that's why you can see somebody get raided in the middle of the night by a SWAT team, and the SWAT team's pretty confident that the only guy they got to worry about is that guy in his underwear at 3 o'clock in the morning inside the house. They're not worried about the entire community because the community's not organized. They're all afraid to organize. That's the whole point of the NSA. And letting you know they're watching you is that you're afraid to organize. Well, I think the exact opposite is what you have to do. You must organize as a community. Make it so that
That's right. That's right. The great danger is in being in fear, then they win. If we charge out and are ready, they will fail. I mean, it's that simple.
Right. I mean, you can only get so many well-vetted and selected mercenaries who will do anything they're told. There's only so many of those in the world. In Russia, where everyone just sat in their houses hoping the knock on the door wouldn't come to them, they could use the secret police and go house to house one at a time. But if you organize as a community, that will not work because they'll be outnumbered. Like, for example, in Kalispell, Montana, where I live, the local VFW has 500 members in it. There's no way some snatch team from DHS could possibly come into that community if all 500 of them were organized and ready to defend the people. It couldn't be done. They'd have to pull out the National Guard at least, or the U.S. Army. So that's what you want them to do. You want to force them to not be able to just use secret police, which they can always have. You want to force them to try to use a standing military, and that's when they'll lose.
Well, the word I get just across the grapevine is when they start giving orders for guns or to round up patriot leaders, pull a false flag, whoever gives those orders is going to be in deep trouble.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, that's not me saying that. That's everybody's, that default position is America knows there's a takeover. We know we're the Americans fighting a globalist takeover. We are the resistance. It's on. They're shutting the whole country down right now. And I think, and they're scanning all the airwaves, they're scanning the web. They know we're in a strong position, Stewart. I don't know if they're really going to try to execute this. I think they may back off. When you've got Bob Woodward saying that this is the fault of Obama, and all these generals turning against him, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman saying, no, you're not going to hit Syria, I think there's already been a partial soft counter coup within the power structure.
Well, actually, and that's one of the more dangerous things, is that this could be a manipulation where they present you with a false choice between submitting to Obama and his handlers, and on the other side saying, well, you know, the only answer to that is a military coup. A military coup would be disastrous.
No, we're not calling for a military coup. I understand. I'm saying it's more of a stand down, a good stand down in the military refusing to do this thing with Al-Qaeda to Syria. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's a good thing that Dempsey went and said, no, you're not going to do this.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is folks need to be aware that there's also the possibility of a sleight of hand where they build up the military as a solution and say, oh, the military coup is the only choice. And I've heard this increasingly from some elements in the right. And I'm just saying, guard against that. The answer is not for the military to step in and take over the country. That'd be the end of our republic as well.
No, I don't want that either. But if, and I don't think they want to go with that bait and switch, though, Stewart. And I don't think most of the military people I've seen would not even want to be in control of something like that. I'm saying the FBI, the federal marshals, the Secret Service, and I'm not romanticizing those institutions, they more and more have been dragging their feet implementing tyranny. They've been leaking stuff. The military is just like wildfire waking up right now. And I'm saying that itself, just people not following illegal orders, is more and more basically blocking the globalist.
Yeah, it's a good sign. But like I said, what they could then do is go with their nuclear option, their economic neutron bomb, crash the economy and sit back and wait for it all to implode, wait for Americans to be killing each other for food, and then they can come in like the cavalry. So that is still an option for them. This is what I worry about the most.
Oh, no, I think you're right. As you said last year on the show, and as you're saying now, and as you have in the paper that breaks it all down with a great analysis at Infowars.com and Oathkeepers.org, breaking right now. I'm going to send this out on Twitter during the next break. Get my iPhone and that's out there syncing and send that out. You're absolutely right. But I mean, just in my gut, not just intellectually, I feel maximum, not even tension now. I don't even have anxiety now. It's like the war's already started. Kind of like Patrick Henry said, has the war already begun, Stewart Rhodes?
I think the Cold War has certainly begun long ago, and we're now shaping the future battle space. Absolutely.
That's right. We'll be right back with more with Stewart Rhodes, then your phone calls, then Max Kaiser, 20 minutes into the next hour. Stay with us. Are we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent privately and publicly looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind, the movie, at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free citizen rulebook. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this all sounds wild, but you see the preparations. It's all admitted. This has happened everywhere else in the world where the tyrants have been able to take over. And it's happened over and over again throughout history. And they're doing the same thing again here in America. Here's the current issue of InfoWars magazine. You can buy in bulk at cost to get out to friends and family. It has two different Halloween masks. You can go out and deprogram the public. One is a skull, says Obamacare. That's the cover. Turn it into a Halloween mask. On the back, Prozac the Killer Clown. Remember, kids, there's nothing better than mass murder pills. And inside, we, again, amongst other things, expanded the article by Don Salazar that I was talking about. DOD training manual, extremist founding fathers will not be welcome in today's military. This is the kind of stuff that's in here. You need to give this as a gift subscription to your local police department. You need to buy them in bulk at cost and hand them out to friends and family, because that's my end of this, is trying to warn people about the takeover. And now people are ready and really ready to understand that this is real. So InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. It's also key to have proper supplements and things. And this isn't just something for your medicine cabinet in emergency. It's great for overall thyroid health, you name it. It is the nascent atomic iodine. InfoWarsLife.com. You can get these in groups of 1 up to 10 packs. Just an amazing product, InfoWarsLife.com. It's almost sold out, but we'll have more in next week. That's InfoWarsLife.com. or you can simply call toll-free 888-253-3139. Stewart Rhodes of oathkeepers.org, I appreciate you and your leadership fighting this tyranny, and we're not being sensational. This is what we really face. But when we come up against something this over the top, it's hard for even us, I know, to admit to ourselves that we're really dealing with a tyranny of this magnitude. But in closing, folks, I guess, can go to oathkeepers.org and see the details on how in their area to set up these civilization preservation teams for the collapse that the collectivists are bringing in, that they always bring in to domesticate and break a country through economic siege. This is siege of the whole nation. We're under globalist siege. The District of Mordor on the Potomac is running it. And it's now time to really admit how much trouble we're in and start making real preparations.
Right, but it should not come from fear. It should come from, as you said a moment ago, have the the peace and the calm of knowing this is where you are in history, just to deal with it. Embrace the suck and do what you have to do. But I think it's most important to focus on love of your family, love of your children, your country. So look at it like that. This is you doing what's right because it's right, and letting go of fear. And they want you to be afraid and cower inside your house and be afraid to associate. Be an American. Stand up, step outside your door, get to know your neighbors, and give them the middle finger.
They're the globalists. They're the ones openly demonizing the founders and guns and family. They're on MSNBC saying the family's, going to be taken over by the government. They're obviously out of control, evil people. And why should we cower to them? We should stand up and use their own evil against them. They're so arrogant. Stay there. I want to do 5 more minutes with you, Stewart, and then I'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. We're going to come back with calls in that next segment after that for everybody that's patiently holding. It's just that I start marveling, Stewart, at how openly, classically authoritarian they are. They call us the homeland when translated from German, that's Reichland. Or I mean, it's incredible. They had Reich security, Homeland Security, just everything they do, the black uniforms, the intimidation. It's just these people are scum. Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants.
Here are some of the amazing deals at InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest times. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, medical herbs, and more. Go to the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
And remember, the revolution against tyranny is growing. Many anthropologists. All right, Stewart Rhodes, in the next 5 minutes, you've got the floor for other key points, the head of Oath Keepers, you'd like to relay to people about the serious point our republic's gotten to.
Well, as I said before, that they've turned the Founders Republic upside down, and they've weakened the people intentionally. The people are stripped of their powers, told the only answer is to go vote. And then we're also bombarded with one crisis after another. And folks need to realize what's really going to count when the crap hits the fan is whether you're squared away as a family, if you and your circle of friends, close friends, have formed into a team for mutual assistance and self-defense, and most importantly, whether your neighborhoods are squared away. That's why I think the most important thing you can do right now is go start a neighborhood watch. If you don't already have one, start one. Throw a block party, get to know your neighbors, become a community again, and do it as fast as you possibly can. And then reach out to your veterans. The veterans out there, you have a duty and responsibility to step up and train, to spread your knowledge. You know a lot. The government's trained you in specialty. They spent thousands or even sometimes millions of dollars on you just to train you. Spread that knowledge through your community and get them organized. Lead them. That's the most important thing that can happen right now is neighborhood watches and local veterans stepping up and leading their communities. If you do that, you'll remove the weakness we have in this country overnight. You can do it very quickly within a matter of weeks. form these teams, and get squared away. So I encourage folks to use our model, which is based on the SF Special Forces A-Team model, which is very successful. Use that and adapt it to your local situation, your local area, and go with it. Just run with it. Need our help? Contact us through Oath Keepers. We'll help any way we possibly can. But the most important thing is for you to commit to doing it and getting out there and organizing your own community.
So don't wait for orders from headquarters. Go to the sound of the guns, and you notice Homeland Security and all their internal documents says the veteran is the #1 enemy because they know that's where the resistance will come from in the takeover.
Well, certainly. They are a pool of trained people who know what they're doing and have the ability to lead. And that's what we want to do, is use them now, before it happens. Use them now so they can start training and leading now. Don't wait.
Well, you're right. Again, Stewart Rhodes joining us from his cabin somewhere out in the Northwest. I'm just joking. Everybody knows where Stewart lives at. But I tell you, in closing, any other points you'd like to add?
No, I think you're doing good work, Alex. And as you said before, just like you said, someone apologized to you for not listening before. That's happening to us now. As things get worse and as the economy gets worse, we're having folks walk up to us who said, hey, 2 years ago, I thought you guys were nuts, but now I see you were right, and I want to apologize for not listening. So don't give up on them. Even if someone said no in the past and wouldn't listen, go back now. And a lot of times it's easier because things are getting more and more ridiculous.
Well, you're right, Stewart Rhodes. I hope everybody goes and gets the battle plan you've got to get people squared away and ready. It's at oathkeepers.org. Oath Keepers is going operational by forming special civilization preservation teams. Everything the globalists are doing is about making us dependent on them, about making us pathetic jellyfish. So beating them is being independent, being self-sufficient, and loving your wife, loving your husband, taking care of your kids, being good people. They want to make us immoral because that makes us weak. Everything they do is meant to break down the society and bring us down. It is a military operation against us, and our own military is trained in this, so they see it and know what it is. That's the real chink in the armor of this operation.
It's one of them. The other big chink in the armor is the American people. Be Americans.
Oh, of course. That's what I'm saying. The American people seeing that militarily, I mean, look at it. We have an occupational military of goons everywhere now, and they're always in the special units bugging their eyes out at you and your family and your kids, and they're really dangerous thugs. They're either dangerous thugs that are awake or they're good guys and they're awake. But the dangerous thugs, a lot of them actually know what they're doing. They enjoy the power and think they're on the winning team. Stewart Rhodes, thank you so much for the time.
You bet. Thank you.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with your phone calls. Stay with us. Alex Jones here to warn you about some of the most important health information you may ever hear. I'm talking about radiation, radioactive fallout, radioactive particles contaminating the Northern Hemisphere. Conservatively, since the 1940s, the Northern Hemisphere of our planet has more than doubled its background radiation. In fact, that was before Fukushima exploded. Now the levels are going up and up and up. Fish are contaminated in the Pacific, and the FDA, the EPA, and others, they're not worried about it. They've been raising the levels of what they claim is safe radioactive particles. Well, I began to discuss with my wife protecting myself, her, and of course our children. Most importantly, I have 3 small children, ages 10, 9, and 5. Radiation really affects children more than adults because they have fast-growing cells. All the literature is clear on that. And I went and talked to medical doctors, scientists, nuclear physicists, nutritionists, and I said, what's the #1 thing I can do to protect my family? And they said, Alex, it's leave the Northern Hemisphere. Go south of the equator. That's where the radiation levels are very, very low. If you look at the wind patterns, the north hardly interacts with the south. And it's unfortunate that we've done this to our planet. So after more than 2 years of research into how to protect my family, looking at all the literature, talking to the experts, across the board they agreed iodine is key. But of the family of iodine, nascent, natural, non-GMO, non-factory iodine that comes from the earth is absolutely paramount for your thyroid and other functions in the body. The literature, the research, it's there. It's not my opinion. It is admitted that iodine is essential for the health of our bodies overall, and nascent iodine is the best form. Now, we're announcing the launch of InfoWarsLife.com, and we're going to bring you scores of products over the next few years that we're researching and developing. But nascent iodine is the first product we're coming out with because it's so important, and it's also listed as a fluoride detoxer. It does so many other things. Your body needs it, and when you don't have enough iodine, forget the radiation, your thyroid absorbs the sodium fluoride and other things. And it's the good iodine, the nascent iodine, that is able to block that and just do so many things for your body and your health. I've been taking it. It's amazing. It's a lot better than coffee, I'm here to tell you. And that's why we are now offering our own nascent iodine that's double the strength, made in the best laboratory that is FDA certified and accredited. And it is double strength at half the price of the leading competitor. You know my rule, bring you the highest quality products at the lowest prices we can, so it's a win-win-win. I believe in you reap what you sow. So not only will you get the best deal on nascent iodine at InfoWarsLife.com for your general health and also for any type of emergencies or disasters, you will also be getting a great deal and supporting the InfoWar and our news operation, promoting the cure for tyranny, the First Amendment, promoting liberty and a rediscovery of the Bill of Rights and Constitution and true Americana that's made this nation so great. So please join me in being among the first to visit InfoWarsLife.com. We've got discounts if you buy the nascent iodine in bulk. I challenge you to try to find a better deal. We have the best deal out there and the best quality. In closing, here is probably the most important point. You don't just take nascent iodine when disaster strikes, when there's some new giant disaster. The Northern Hemisphere is already double what it was 60 years ago with the radioactive background. I believe from the research I've done and the experts I've talked to, it is key to take nascent iodine to protect your thyroid from the radiological disaster that's already happened. And unfortunately, future disasters that will happen. That's why it's important to fill your thyroid up now with the healthy nascent iodine so that the sodium fluoride, the radioactive isotopes, and the rest of it can't get in. That's the key. This is something that across the board has been shown in study after study to be an absolutely essential nutrient in the body. Until a few decades ago, the government put it in the salt because they knew you needed it. But then they took that out, that's good for the thyroid, and put the sodium fluoride in that's bad for it. Talk about eugenics, talk about soft kill, talk about an invisible weapon in the water supply. This stuff is on record as a detoxifier for the fluoride they're adding to our water. Nascent iodine and InfoWars Life Survival Shield in double strength at half the cost of the leading competitors. Please visit InfoWarsLife.com today.